Well, this is still in lockdown. 4020 not live. Looking outside the window, rain, depressing weather. Where's the summer gone? There's no Rugby League still, but we do have a special guest this week. Phil might be joining us if he can get Skype to work. But we are joined by Leeds Rhinos, Sophie Robinson. Sophie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Just hoping lockdown ends very soon.
I think everyone's just got, what's it, 2-3 months now? I can't even remember. It just seems to be so long that we don't know what normal is anymore.
Yeah, I think just the months are just passing by out there. We just don't even know what day it is anymore.
I think it's Wednesday. Well, the time this goes out as a video, it would be Thursday. Friday, we'd be looking forward to another weekend of rugby, but we're not looking forward to any rugby at the moment because obviously we're all stuck inside. You wouldn't be playing at the minute anyway because you were injured at the mid part of last season. How is your recovery going?
Yeah, my recovery is going good. I'm allowed to run now, so that's another box ticked. Yeah, it's slow recovery, just building up my strength and endurance and stuff like that. But yeah, hopefully once we're allowed back to train, I'll be allowed to do a little bit with the girls, maybe looking into contact. But yeah, we're on the right road now. I'm allowed to run, so that's good.
You got to play in the cup final last year. Obviously missed out on the grand final, but a great experience and beating Castlewood in both finals. It was another great year for the Rhinos.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to play the grand final anyway because I was meant to move. Yeah. But yeah, it was good, and I think it was even better getting to beat Cass twice as well.
Yeah, you got this nice rivalry between the two, aren't you? These two giant West Yorkshire clubs now, and every time you play, there always seems to be a bit of a needle there.
Yeah, I think it is a good rivalry. I think it helps that we've beaten them in all the finals we've played them. But yeah, it's good, and hopefully it continues into the near future. I think it's good to have a local derby, and we're probably are two of the top teams in the league. So I think if we can continue that, it'll be good for developing the game in the future.
Well, we talk about that development. Obviously, the grand final last year was on Sky. Rugby League, the women's games never had a higher profile. It's almost a shame this has come and just got in the way of everything. What would have been another great season starting a few months ago.
Yeah, definitely. I think this year would have just gone above last year. So it is a shame because we were meant to play before the men's semi-final again and stuff like that I know were planned in. But hopefully if we do get to play at some point, there will be opportunity to play on Sky Sports again, hopefully, and in the big stadiums, which should be good and can develop on last year because it was very successful last year.
There were two new teams added this year, Warrington and Huddersfield, and at some point you're hoping to obviously get out there and play and fit in some kind of season and a grand final, of course, because next year a big year with the World Cup coming up.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially for the girls in the England setup, they need to play this year, need to have at least some games going into next year because the likes of Australia and New Zealand, it's been announced they're having their season, so hopefully we do get to play a few games just to push on, make sure that going into next year in the best condition as possible. But yeah, hopefully we do. It just depends on the situation, how that unfolds.
How do you fancy your chances of getting into the England squad for the World Cup?
Yeah, for me, I'm not looking that far ahead. It's not my main goal at the minute. I've only just started running, so for me, the thought of even playing is a huge step. So yeah, just for me, it's just to step on the field again and actually make a tackle or be tackled. Anything else that came from that in the future would just be an added benefit right now.
I remember the day after you were injured, your friend Danica was in the studio with us and had to go halfway through to deliver you at McDonald's in hospital. Is that what you're missing more, rugby or McDonald's at the moment?
Well, McDonald's is open now, and so I did go when it first opened, but I went and I just don't like McDonald's anymore. But yeah, I'm missing rugby, but I'm missing eating out as well. But I'd give all of that up to get my hair done.
I mean, as you can see by mine, mine's an utter disgrace at the minute, but it is my own choice rather than anything else. I can't blame anyone else for that. We're obviously in this lockdown situation. How hard has it not being able to have contact with your teammates and with everyone who you get on with week in, week out throughout the season?
Yeah, it's been pretty hard, yeah. But we've been lucky. We've been doing a lot of Zoom sessions. So we've been able to do sessions together, even though not together, which I think's been good. We also have the app where we can track what everyone's doing, which has been good. I think, especially for like motivation and stuff, it helps seeing what everyone's actually doing. But yeah, it'll be good to get back in, see some of the girls. I know some have started training together in groups of 6, so that'll be good for them, and it should be good when we all get back together.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to the season. Obviously, the women's season was just about to be launched the week of the lockdown was announced. We'd had a few weeks of the men's season. I don't know if you watched much of the here he is, King Rhino. Phil Kaplan's here. He's got the new.
Sorry, I was just reading.
He's got the new issue of Forty20 magazine, which is out now. Phil, is that right?
It appears to be.
It's there.
Just reading Danica's column.
Oh, what's she written?
What's she saying?
Oh, very, very controversial, this one. Talking about the selection of the England squad and the England exiles and who isn't there rather than who is, and the selection process.
Is it as controversial as her last appearance on this programme?
Yeah, I think there'll be certain people in authority that will be taking her off their Christmas card list. But she has come up with a very good suggestion that the England selected should play the rest, so that the rest can show that they deserve to be in the squad, which would be interesting to see if that's taken up.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. That is good.
Especially if the women's season is further curtailed and you need more exhibition matches at the end of it rather than a full league programme throughout it. So if you have 3, England selected against those who haven't been to prove themselves, that would be a really interesting series of games, which of course you'd be eligible for.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
So we've got the men are not playing Australia now in the autumn, because we don't even know when the men are going to be playing, let alone we know the Australians aren't coming over because State of Origin makes too much money. Let's talk about the England versus the Exiles there, Phil. But we still don't know when the men are going to play, although it looks like July/August time, which I think has been the timescale we're looking at for a while, isn't it?
Still think there's a couple of really important variables, and one is when crowds are back, because it's clear from the working groups, both for Super League and the Championship and League One, that there is a real feeling that there has to be the end of the season with crowds. So if you're working from the back to your start date, you don't want to start too early, because you need to have those games at the back end. The problem then becomes, when will Sky want Super League to start filling their schedules? And you would think that now they've got Premier League and Championship soccer up to a certain date, they'd want Rugby League to kick in as that ends, to almost be the bridge to the start of the new football season. So I think Sky are going to push for, we want the middle of August, and the clubs are going to push for, we want the end of November, ideally, as our finish date. How do we manage to get crowds in towards the back end of the season? Because that bit we have no control over. But we're sort of working towards that. I think the other thing, the Catalan have come out and said they're hoping to play games at home in September. And I think the issue with that is we don't know how the quarantine laws are going to be around that time of year either. And at the moment, I've checked the quarantine regulations as best you can, understanding government speak, and there is no exemption for professional sports people.
Unless you're Formula One.
The way it stands at the moment, I don't know whether the Dragons would have to come in and quarantine before they played, or whether teams going and playing them would then have to go into quarantine when they come back, or if you're going in an enclosed aeroplane and you're not going anywhere other than the ground in an enclosed bus and coming back, you would be subject to those quarantine restrictions. So I think all of that's got to be built into it as well. And the other issue is promotion relegation, because clearly there's a small lobby of Championship clubs that want to maintain the integrity of their competition that involves a degree of promotion. And I think the Super League clubs are now saying it's got to the point where we are literally going to have a foreshortened season. We don't want relegation. So again, that's got to be brought into the equation.
obviously, I'm not going to pretend that there are thousands of people watching Women's Super League games, Sophie, but obviously there's some teams get big crowds, some teams slightly less. What's the difference as a player going out there when there's actually no one in the crowd making a noise, or when there's a few thousand people making that noise?
Yeah, I think for us at Leeds, we always get a good crowd. So it does help having the crowd behind us. But I understand as a player, we probably might not get fans there. I don't think it'll alter at how we play too much compared to the men's game. It is always nice to play in front of a crowd, but for the women's side of it, I don't think it will alter much. Just because the crowd numbers are not too, we don't have too many anyway. But like the likes of finals where we had thousands of people coming to watch, I think that's where the actual effect will be seen. But yeah, hopefully we do get crowds, but I think people have to understand we potentially won't and why we won't. And if they want to play games, they're just going to have to get used to that and alter how they play.
Do you think that in terms of the women's competition, there's two things really. One is you're encouraged by the fact that the NRL have announced that they are coming back in the format that they had planned, that the same teams that played last year are going to be invited to play again this year. And I know the Warriors have come out today and said they're gearing up and excited to be part of it. And that's one thing. I think the other thing is that the big feature in the magazine, which I'm not here to promote in any way whatsoever, is an extended interview with Simon Johnson, who's the chairman of the RFL board, and he makes it clear in that how important the women's game is, and how we can't lose sight of the fact that that is one of the big growth markets, which obviously is something that we've been trying to promote as well in all the time that we've been doing this. And I think that even if you had to play your games behind closed doors and they were televised, is it encouraging that people are talking about the women's game? Because football, it seems to be the opposite at the moment. It's almost been sidelined.
Yeah, I think it would have been easy for them to just be like, okay, the women are not playing this season. So I think it's good. We are still on the talks. We're still going to play at some point. And yeah, like you said, I think women are half the population. Like to get more games on Sky, like this could work out good for the women's game. If we get to play on Sky even 1-2 times, it just enables us to promote our game even more. So hopefully when we do get to play, that would be one route we could look down, because like we said, we played last year on Sky and how successful was that? So hopefully we can build on that and get some games or even live streams just to promote if the crowds cannot get in.
I'd like cardboard cutout for a women.
It's such a good idea, the cardboard cutout, so I hope they do it here.
As long as someone keeps an eye on who they print out and who they don't print out, as long as they get the right people, that's the main thing. I've come up with this theory, and it's strange when I think about it. But women's rugby league is almost in a better position than many other women's sports because there's absolutely no money in it whatsoever, which is not a good thing. Obviously, we all want to see you paid. We want to see your time that you obviously love the game, you love playing, you love training. We want to see your recompense for that, but there's no money to do that at the minute. And I read these articles about women's football and women's rugby union and cricket and about how the pandemic is going to have a really massively negative effect because the money, which sometimes comes from men's sport, is not being filtered down. So women's football players are going to have to take pay cuts or whatever. Women's rugby league, because there's no money in it, has a great chance of coming out of this not set back at all because no one's losing any money when you come back out and play again. In fact, you might earn more money because people will be more aware of the sport.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, like I think the only real effect that we probably will have is just the players' progress, like how much of a pre-season will we actually have going back into it. But yeah, like you said, the money side, I'm guessing the sponsors who have funded will lose out, but not on the scale of football and cricket. So yeah, that's a good point actually.
I think it's interesting that the women's rugby union sponsors who've set up their championship have pulled out, so it's not going to be Tyrrell's Crisps anymore. So I think the market's open for rugby league to, particularly on the women's side, to perhaps fill that void. And I know you'll probably have answered this question while I was too busy reading, but if you accept that injury is an occupational hazard, has this been the best time to be injured? That actually, because the season's been delayed, you haven't missed too much of it, and that when you do come back, you'll be at the same level as virtually everybody else with effectively the season at the beginning rather than towards the end.
Yeah, I think from a physical side, yeah, because it's enabled me to just focus on my rehab. I've missed out on like the hands-on physio side, that's been the hardest bit. But yeah, for me, the physical side's always been the easy part of the injury, but it's just the mental side for me. So even if I do get physically fit, it's coming back and actually mentally being able to train with the girls again. So that's just the area that's not benefited me by being in lockdown. But for most injured players, yeah, lockdown probably has been a blessing in disguise for them, just being able to focus on rehab and stuff like that.
Transfer news I tend to find quite dull, but the big news in the paper on Monday, because paper is singular at the moment, sadly, was at Toronto, who I read on John Davidson and colleagues' Patreon may or may not have trouble paying players on time. They're going to make 4 big signings. Ryan Hall, who of course played for Sydney Roosters at the weekend, Richie Myler and Stevie Ward from the Rhinos, and Ben Flower from Wigan. A statement of intent, as they say, from the Wolfpack. Phil, how many of those 4 do you see wearing Wolfpack colours in 2021?
Definitely 2. Possibly 3. Not sure about 4. But I think again, we were talking about this. I think I was talking about it to Mark during this week, and I'm not sure how any club at the moment can genuinely know who they can sign for next year, because at the moment it's hard enough to know how much money is going to be generated in 2020 because we don't know what the season's going to look like. But you don't know what your budget is for 2021 yet, and the talk is that Sky are going to claw back some of the monies from this season for matches that haven't been shown.
Yeah, I understand that's £300,000 per club, so that's a big chunk.
Yeah, it's effectively 2 months of not showing games, but that they don't want that to come out of this year because clearly clubs are under the cosh cash-wise this year. So it's coming out of next year, which is why, funnily enough, that amount was going to be taken off the salary cap next year. No coincidence there. But if you were Toronto and you were suddenly being told that you effectively were having £300,000 taken out of your budget that you hadn't accounted for, in the same way that would apply to every club in Super League, makes it very hard to go and negotiate with players. It also means that the clubs that those players are part of at the moment don't know their budgets. So I think Ben Flower is probably an agreed deal already. And they're looking for a big prop up front, and that might be something to do with they release somebody who's currently there that's on the overseas quota because they need to change that around a bit. I think Ryan is at the end of his contract in Australia, and if he was to come back, then I think Toronto would be an exciting prospect for him because he'll be 32, I think, when he comes back. I can't see him desperately wanting to play for an established Super League club, but to rejoin Brian McDermott in a new venture, I think would be quite exciting. The thing about him is he's got proven pedigree. You know, he can do it at a very, very top level of Super League. And the one thing that Toronto have had slightly exposed in the first 6 games that we've all forgotten about is that they were found wanting in certain positions with players who may not be, with the greatest respect, up to Super League standard. So I think that he would be on their list. I think Richie Myler would be relatively easy to pick up because, again, he's going to be out of contract. And I think with the signings Leeds have made with Luke Gale, although there is a case for saying that as the season part 1 ended, Richie was the man in form. His long-term future is as a utility player. Now, if he was offered the starting number 7 shirt in Super League in Toronto, I think that might be an exciting prospect for him, especially as his good lady works out of Manchester studios. So that would sort of fit. The only one I don't know is Stevie, 26. Question marks over his fitness, but there's no doubt that when he is at his peak, he's one of the best players in Super League. Captain of Leeds, I know that means a lot to him. I think he's just putting out the fact that if I had an agent, I'd want to know what I was worth on the market, not having to pay a transfer fee. And the logical place to test that is somewhere like Toronto. So he's the one that I'm not sure about at the moment.
Obviously, with all these players linked between Leeds and Toronto, so if they had a women's team, would you fancy playing for the Wolfpack?
You know what? Canada's never appealed to me, but I just love traveling. So I feel like if they ever had a team they wanted to pay me to go out there and play, I'll take the offer. I'll go out there.
You could be a Raven based in Manchester.
Yeah, I'll go out there. I don't mind basing myself out there for a few weeks in the month. I'll happily do that.
We saw pictures of you in the Far East. Looked like you were enjoying yourself far too much.
Yeah, it was so good. I wish I was back there now. It's probably going to be a while until I can travel again out there.
Is it true that you are an aficionado of fast food? Because again, one of the rumours spread by a teammate, I couldn't possibly say which one, is that the most gleeful person when things like McDonald's reopened, the one person who would sit in a queue for 3 hours during a drive-through would probably be you.
Yeah, I did sit in the queue. It only took me 15 minutes, but yeah, I went. I've started a food Instagram, so I need to this is why I need to eat out. This is my reasoning now. I need pictures for my food Instagram.
What is your food Instagram? I feel we should have to promote this at this point.
Yeah, food with Sophie. So if anyone likes food or eating out, give me a follow because there's very good food pictures on there.
You're not on TikTok.
What's your food of choice? If you were given the carte blanche of a restaurant you could go to without obviously giving them free advertising, is it Thai? Is it Chinese? Is it Indian? Is it fish and chips?
Yeah, it's got to be Indian. I do love a curry. That's my favourite at the minute in Indian.
How hot though? How hot a curry?
See, I normally go Rogan Josh or Madras, so not mild but not overly spicy.
See, already this has gone down a different route.
Yeah,
this is the kind of content that people want in lockdown.
The serious stuff's still to come. We got time. The NRL is back. I was looking. I bought the paper this week my wife bought me the paper this week. She had to venture out. 24 pages of news. Well, I say 24 pages of news. Not much in it. I'm very excited to see that Lam Patrick signed a 3-year contract on this day 4 years ago, so that was exciting. No women's Super League news in there, which I understand there's a bit around. Some transfer news which hasn't been released yet, and I understand that Bradford's coaching situation will be cleared up very soon, or sooner rather than later, if it already hasn't been announced. But the NRL is back, which is good news for people who like watching telly on a morning, especially for adverts for KFC. $10 for all that chicken, but only in Australia, not forever. Rule changes, one referee, forward pass controversy, Phil, and the Brisbane Broncos getting absolutely smashed at the weekend.
I was hoping perhaps you might not mention that and that we could pretend they hadn't played this week. I've enjoyed it, and I was sceptical at the start about the 6 again rule. And yes, it has led to some blowout scores, although whether that is directly the rule itself or just some sides are better prepared than others after the lockdown. You also are stuck with the squad that you've got. I think it's really, really brave to change a rule that almost takes some of your bigger players out of it when you can't change your squad. So some have adapted better than others, clearly. Some have got a lot of young players in who are going to take time to bed down in an unfamiliar environment as well, which are all excuses for the Broncos being abject this week, although I am looking forward to seeing them again tomorrow get thrashed. But I'm just enjoying it. I think the games that are close are exceptional. I thought the Manly game really was, and it clearly was a forward pass, whatever John Davidson may say. They deserved to lose. No, they didn't. It looked controversial, but the quality's been exceptional, really, considering they're playing in stadium with no people, and that again they've gone back to a different game in some respects. I think we're going to have more of a problem changing the rules now because we've already played 7 games. That's a quarter of the season for some clubs, but some have only played 4 or 5. So do they come back and play under the new rules, or do they have to play their missing games under the old rules before we all move to new rules? It's going to be not as easy to implement. I've enjoyed it. I didn't think I would as much, and I have, and can't get enough of it, unfortunately, because it's taking up too much of my time.
Have you watched much of the games, Sophie?
No, I watched Canberra play last week, but yeah, they're too early for me, and I'm working, so I'm back at work, so no. But the games I did watch, they were really good. I just think the intensity of the NRL, it's really enjoyable to watch. That's the side I like of it. So hopefully I can try watch a few more games.
I know what you mean about it being too early in the morning. Even when I'm not working, which I'm not at the minute, it's far too early to get up and watch rugby on the telly.
It's the insomniac dream.
Well, it's for insomniacs. Those games where they start about 6:30. No, that's not for me. When I can get up and there's a game at 10:30, that's not too bad. But 6:30, no. Newcastle Knights beat the Canberra Raiders at the weekend, and they're having a great start to the season. Which again is not good for John Davison, who wanted to join us there, but sadly he's unavailable. Probably writing some more controversial stuff to upset people.
He's still crying about Manly getting robbed.
Well, he will do.
He needs to get over it.
I'm trying to see if there's any other transfer news, and really all there is people denying that players are going to leave anywhere. Although I'm starting to see that George King's leaving Wakefield to head to Hull KR, but I think we can, you only have to read between the lines to work out one of the reasons you'd want to go to Hull KR if you're George King. But it'd be sad to see him leave Wakefield because he's one of those players who works hard. And you need those players, even if people don't see it all the time.
Sophie's the glamour. She lets the others work hard.
Well, you'll be all right with the 6 again rule because you've got the speed. It's all these forwards in the middle trundling up. They won't have the energy to deal with all this tackling they're going to have to do.
Yeah, I've seen loads of tweets about the 6 again rule. I don't actually know what it is, but I've seen loads of people tweeting about it.
And the easiest way to explain it is that if there's an infringement at the play the ball that isn't marked as not being square, which is still deemed to be offside, but the wrestle's gone on too long, or there's too many people in the tackle, and it's deemed that they are stopping the play. Instead of it breaking down and there being a kick to touch and a delay, the referee signals 6 again, so the team with the ball just keeps rolling forward, and those with nippy halfbacks and like to play a faster brand of rugby seem to be benefiting from it.
Yeah, no, that does seem a good rule. I'd like to see that in the Super League. I'd like to see how it works.
Before we get into the... Oh, sorry, Phil.
I think it'll come in, but maybe not for this year, and it could come in straight away for the women's game because clearly the season hasn't started yet.
Yeah.
We're looking at perhaps August, September for the Women's Super League to start. Just in terms of your career, Sophie, who were the players who you looked up to growing up who inspired you to be a rugby league player?
For me, when I was growing up, my favourite player was Brent Webb. So he was my favourite. He was probably who I looked up to. But yeah, the women's game was not as promoted as it was when I started playing. So there weren't any women I looked up to. Now I'm playing, it would be Lois. Like she's the best player I've ever played with. And I think for still so many young girls, she is their idol. She's a player that people look up to. So I'm glad now I'll get the opportunity for her to coach me. I think I'm just glad she stayed within the game.
If you had the chance to go to Australia, like one of your teammates is trying to do, and Courtney might eventually end up back in Australia, and obviously you get paid if you get to play in the Women's Super League over there, would that be an attraction? You say you love travel. If you suddenly got the phone call from Brisbane Women, would you be on that plane quicker than you could buy a KFC?
Yeah, probably. Like, I want to travel Australia, so traveling Australia and playing would be something I probably wouldn't hesitate, and I'd probably just get on the flight and go out there. But yeah, I think it's good. Like, Shah's gone out there. It shows there is opportunity for women and girls to go out there. Australia, the NRL, the women's, they're playing at the top level. They're getting paid. So yeah, if I got offered, I would be straight there. But I think it'll be good. I think there'll be more girls who do start to go out there and play.
What about the World Cup? Because again, the big announcement today has been the venues have been announced, which is fantastic the way they did it. Again, I think anybody who saw it rolling through social media, they did it really well again. Have you set that as a target? Are you going to be fit and well enough and playing well enough to be part of that, do you think?
Right now, I'm not thinking towards England or the World Cup. For me, I'm just looking to play again, like to actually step on a pitch and play again. If I played well enough, and if the opportunity arose, I'd love to represent England one day. But yeah, for me, I'm not looking that far ahead and not thought about actually even playing in the World Cup. Maybe one day, but yeah, maybe in the future. Never know.
I mean, me and Phil were at Headingley in October. Was it October when the England Knights played Jamaica? It seems a long, long time ago now.
I can't remember what year it is, never mind where we were.
We both thought the steel drum was a much better improvement on the usual band. They're certainly better than cowbells. And Jamaica are coming back to Leeds next year as their base, which makes all the sense in the world, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think the community work they can do is immeasurable if we get it right. And I think you've got a council that clearly wants to back that as well. So yeah, no, I think just as a fan, it's great. But I think anybody who is going to play for them will find the warmest of welcomes, and can't wait, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Leeds is the best place for Jamaica to come. We have such a large Caribbean community here. Like, I had some conversations last night with people who involved in the Jamaican team, the setup, and there's so much going to happen in the community from the grassroots up. And I think this is a time to get the Caribbean people involved in the game. There's not many within the game at the minute. I think this is the opportunity to get them into the game, and I think being in Leeds is the best place to be.
You sent a tweet out last week, and I've got it in front of me so I can read what you said, because it's important. You said, "I'm getting fed up with seeing so many racist posts and comments. I'm getting fed up with that. Close friends and people around me saying something all. So many people around me have a platform they're looked up to, yet it comes to racism, they're all silent. I'm fed up and angry. # Black Lives Matters." Me and Phil somehow have cultivated a platform. Phil's got a magazine. I've got this thing, or we've got this thing rather. And I saw those words and I thought, you're right. I don't really know what to say about these things, because I'm a white bloke from Wakefield. I don't experience any racism whatsoever myself personally, of course. But we're allies, Phil, aren't we, about all these things? And we have to, as individuals, and certainly as a sport, or rather the other way around, we have to stand by all these people of different backgrounds and ethnicities and whatever, and say, no, there's no place for abuse in our sport, no place for abuse in society.
I think every level of society needs to educate itself and understand more as best it can, whilst not being able to fully experience what other people are going through, and not just dismiss it. And I think it's very easy to say, oh, it's about a statue in Bristol. As far as I can tell, it's nothing to do with that. It's a deeply ingrained sense of injustice that goes back to the empire and imperialism, and some really important things that need discussing and opening up in all walks of life. So I think that's the first thing. Educate yourself before you say anything. I think the other thing is, we go on in rugby league about being a family sport, and we don't ever define that. So it's something very trite that we throw away, going, we're all in this together. And then Warrington produce a shirt which pays tribute to BLM, and I think that's a brilliant gesture. You know, that is a club that has taken on board some of the things that are clearly in the public domain at the moment. They're not looking to make money out of it. They're donating any profits to a racism charity. We should all get behind that. And then you start seeing some of the posts when they've announced they're going to do it, some of which are from their own fans. Yeah. And you absolutely have to sit down and say, we're not a family. Or if we are a family, it's not something that we perhaps should be trading on the back of until we know exactly what our family stands for. And what I think is immaterial to what people like Sophie think, because I read a piece this morning about Jordan Turner and how he was stopped and searched for the umpteenth time coming away from the John Smith Stadium, having just played for Huddersfield. And if you don't stand up and protest about stuff like that, and you're not aware that that kind of thing goes on, and you're not prepared to make a stand about that, then we're not doing our job properly. And we need people like Sophie to tell us, with the greatest of our respect, what we need to do, because we can't fully understand it.
Yeah. No, I think having this conversation is important. I think a lot of people shy away from having the conversation, just they don't want to cause offence. When have the conversation, if you cause offence, someone will call you out on it. It's just about apologising, learning from that. Like you said, Warrington posting the shirt, like I applauded them for that, because other teams posted photos in support of Black Lives Matters, but they went above that, did that. They were going to donate to charity, and then to see the comments from people involved in rugby league going against a t-shirt, yeah, that angered me. And we all say rugby league's diverse, it's a family, but is it actually? Like, have we actually looked at it? And I now personally, like after the few weeks, I don't think we are. I think we've got a long way to go. And I think it starts from grassroots right the way up the organisation. The RFL probably do need to do more. There's so many black players, mixed race players within the game. Why are they not, like, there's so many young people, these need to be promoted. Young people need to look up to the likes of Jermaine McGilvray, players like that. They need to look up and be like, okay, I can be the next Jermaine and stuff like that. And that's what I think is really important. We need to start from a young age. We need to get into the likes of Chapeltown, Harrows, places like that, who have a black community, get them involved in the game, because I'm the only mixed race player in the Leeds first team. Like, it's been 3 years and I'm the only mixed race female. And if you look at many of the teams, it is predominantly white. So we do need to market, promote the black players within our game. We need to get them in schools, in clubs, and I think it's an important journey we all need to go on. And it's not just down to the RFL or the likes of Leeds or St Helens. I think it's all working together. And I hope, like, the past few weeks, we're having this conversation now, which is important. And I think as long as we continue to do so, I think we are moving in the right direction right now, which is good.
I mean, you'll know, Phil. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, it's not just playing, because again, listening to people on programs where you can have a deeper debate, maybe a news night or whatever. There's a great podcast out at the moment called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, which again, I think if anybody can get hold of that and watch it, it's really, really enlightening for the issues that we probably have never appreciated, who aren't involved in that environment. But it's not just about playing opportunities, it's about senior management opportunities. It's about the RFL having more people themselves who are of an ethnic background. It's about the club managements having chief executives and senior executives from different backgrounds. And I think, again, that's in our sport is merely indicative of society, that if we don't offer greater opportunities to a more diverse group of people, then you're not setting the right lead. And it's not about positive discrimination, because I think that was a phrase that 3 or 4 years ago was a bit of a turn off for people. Everything should be on merit. Well, it isn't if your CV is never considered. That's the problem. The issue is that if you don't get the opportunity to be interviewed and prove that you're at the very least the equal, if not the better of the people that are getting the jobs, then you're never going to change anything. So I think we all need to work harder at actually just opening up opportunity to everybody, and we don't.
Yeah, I think, like, I had the opportunity to play in school. How many schools don't even offer the opportunity to rugby league to the children? I think that's one step we need to work on, especially in rugby. But yeah, like you said, black people are discriminated against in not just sport, works of life, and like I think that's been proven the past few weeks, and why the statue was pulled down. For me, like, why do we have a statue of a slave trader anyway? And the arguments from that, I think, is just evident of where we need to progress still. But yeah, sport has a huge platform, and I think us involved in Rugby League, we have a huge platform to actually change people's minds, get the black community involved in the game, which is why I wrote the tweet, because I know there's people involved in the game who have this platform, and they've not spoke up on the level I personally think they could have done, and that's people I know within the game. Some people who I played again, they've not spoke up, and for me, everyone has a platform, even if that's one follower, two follower, and yeah, it's an important issue, and I really want to get behind this and help any way I can, moving forward.
What I think made a difference yesterday was Raheem Sterling. Again, I watched his interview, and it's very easy to clip out a headline and put it on social media. If you sit down and watch the full, I think it was 10, 15 minutes, there is an example of somebody who clearly a lot of people are going to listen to, actually saying, I might endanger my career, but this is more important. I need to stand up. I've watched England football teams suffer racist abuse, both at home and abroad. We can't blame it solely on fans in places like Austria or wherever. And we need to get to the point where players leave the field, that people like Raheem do become the leaders and just say, I'm not prepared to put up with that. Nobody should have to put up with that. And we pussyfooted around that too long. Even in Rugby League, we make much of the fact that Clive Sullivan was the first Great Britain black captain. Well, that was 1972 when he picked up the World Cup. It wasn't yesterday. And that Ellery Hanley was the first coach. Well, again, that was 1994. There's a whole generation of people that never saw. We need more people now in prominent sporting positions to stand up. It'd be great if Ellery had come out this week and said, I'm behind Raheem, or here are some of the reasons why I'm not involved in coaching a top level team at the moment. I think you'll find that my qualifications are as good as anybody else, but I haven't been offered a job for however long. And all of that is debate that we need to have. And, we're not exonerated as Rugby League. We're not, just because we've got a couple of very historic milestones doesn't mean that we shouldn't be having this conversation. And we're not. And nobody should die for a cause, but somebody has to be a martyr. And if George Floyd ends up being a martyr when we look back in history, then he hasn't died in vain. And this is a moment where we need to talk about change. And I don't want in any way to feel as though it's the responsibility of people who don't understand to be saying things. It needs to be us supporting people like Sophie. That's the way around it's got to be for me, for it to have any meaning.
I definitely agree. I think it's not just the black community that have a voice to speak up. It is about everyone getting on board, everyone educating, everyone saying, no, this is wrong, like this is not allowed to happen anymore. I think that's the only way we will progress. Like, how many generations have we been hoping for change? Like, it's not a new topic, but I'm just hoping that this is the last generation that actually this is the last generation we're going to make a change now. And I hope, like, what happened to George Floyd was disgusting. Like, I think everyone can agree, like, it shouldn't have happened. But like you said, hopefully from the murder of him, we can make a positive change now. That's what I'm hoping anyway. And I think it will take us all coming together and making that next step, which I'm really hopeful for. I think the change, even in a few weeks, is we can see that. So I just hope it continues, and me having a little platform within sport, that's one area I can actually benefit and help. So yeah, that's what I want to work towards, and just doing anything I can to hopefully make a positive change.
I think that's where foundations come in as well, because again, declaring a vested interest in the fact that clearly, obviously, being involved in the Leeds Foundation, I want it to be as successful and wide-reaching as it can be. But the foundations at every single club have a massive part to play in this, because they are the arm that goes out into the community. They are the ones that can change things, that can educate. It's not just about sport. It's great that when you can get some kids playing rugby for the first time at under 7 in a program in a school, but it's not about that. It's about big causes at the moment in terms of domestic violence, and all of this now needs to be incorporated into what rugby league is about. In my opinion, the fact that we are discussing statues, who are they for? Who put them up in the first place? Under what criteria? The people that are in power always put up statues of themselves. So 200 years ago, the people in power were doing things that wouldn't be deemed at all acceptable these days. So it's absolutely right that, and I'm pleased that Leeds Council and Manchester have been in the forefront of saying we're going to review every single statue that we've got up there. Yeah, and people should be. Dissent is a really important thing. People should be out on the streets showing that this isn't acceptable anymore, and we should then be falling in behind that and supporting it. And I'm hoping that because we have got this hiatus at the moment where a lot of people have got more time to think about things, that this is really high up the agenda for all the wrong reasons, but needing time to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to ask you something in a minute, Phil, but I'm going to ask something more important to Sophie first, because I'm assuming social media is terrible. Me and Phil get abuse on this program. Me probably worse than him sometimes. Sometimes about my weight, which I can obviously change, but I choose not to. I enjoy food too much and not exercising. But on a serious point, social media is terrible, but has got the opportunity for good. I'm assuming that, and it tends. I've tended to have noticed in the last few years, for whatever reason, and people can work out why, people seem to be more willing to express opinions on social media, which they haven't been before. But I'm guessing that racism's never really a thing that's gone away.
Yeah, I think through lockdown, I've seen so much racism. I think I was probably a bit naive before. I think I grew up in a white family. But I don't see the like Jamaican side of my family. So I have grown up with white friends in a white school. So I've been lucky to a sense that I'd probably not seen racism as much as probably some other people. And then it came to lockdown, I've seen so much. I think Twitter, Instagram, people can hide behind a screen. They can view their opinions, which they wouldn't do in person. So yeah, especially after the murder of George Floyd, I've seen a lot of comments from people, and I think racism is not something you can disagree on, like politics, stuff like that. Okay, we can have a conversation. Racism, no, we can't. And that's the thing for me. Like, I probably would have stayed quiet a few weeks ago, but now I'm gonna call people out, and I'm gonna reply to them, which to one sense it's draining, but it's just, yeah, I just think people can hide behind a screen on Twitter and things like that, and it makes racism more rife, which is not good. But yeah, I just think it people need to take a stand. If they see things like that, take a stand, let these people know it's not right, and that's all we can do, really.
When LBC sent a tweet out about their minute silence for Black Lives Matter, but still employ people who obviously have stuck at racist views over the last few years, you think, well, I don't even know what to think about that. But in terms of, well, I know what I do think. They're complete, utter charlatans to do that. Phil, from our perspective in the media, and I think, I think back, there was a time at Radio Yorkshire when I had some control over who we got on the air and not, and I'm trying to think now, we didn't use enough people who are A, women, or A, from black or ethnic minorities on our programmes, and we can change that. That's something we can do. There aren't that many, I can't think off the top of my head of too many people from black or ethnic minority communities who are in the rugby league media, bar Alex Simmons, of course, who's done everything himself in terms of his programme, and Jamie Jones-Buchanan alongside him. Alex Hunt on Radio Manchester, Leon Price, who did bits for Talk Sport and Radio Yorkshire towards the end. I'm trying to think off the top of my head many more, and it's not as if there aren't, of course, great, as you've mentioned, iconic black players who've played the sport in the last few years, decades, whatever in the past.
Yeah, I think I'd add Shamoon to that, who works at PA. He came through a rugby league background, and he's doing some really good work with people like Sonny Bill and
I forgot David Johnson as well at the BBC.
I just think it's probably more important than that you have to look up at the chain of command. And in this country and in America, without getting overly political about it, we have got people in charge of those countries who have on record statements that are racist and haven't really been fully called out for them. I think your mention of Farage is right as well. You know, he doesn't represent a party that has a seat in Parliament, but his views are being given credence that they don't deserve, and they're not balanced against other people's. You know, so, we're all guilty of it. You know, again, going back to rugby league, we make great virtue out of the fact that Ikram, who we've had on our programme and keep in touch with, is the first and only Asian in England international. Well, again, that's partly because we're looking at it the wrong way around. It's fine to hold up him as an example, but why aren't more people playing should be the question. You know, they have a role model in him, but his generation has now gone. What have we as a sport and a society been doing to encourage people, even if they don't want to necessarily play the game, to come and support and watch and sponsor and get involved in the game, feel part of the game, talk about the game, take them to a game. You quite rightly brought up the Jamaica England Exiles game at Headingley. I thought the atmosphere in the crowd that day was completely different to most rugby league crowds, and it wasn't even you noticed a different mix of perhaps the colour breakdown in the crowd. It was the fact that there were lots of young black kids there that had mainly been bought with their parents, or perhaps were attached to a community club, or maybe their school had got involved. And that's because people who were involved with the Jamaican setup had gone out of their way to include them. And I know, because some of them use the foundation room, that it was the first time they'd ever been to a rugby match. Now, it didn't necessarily mean that they're going to be the next Ellery Hanley, but what it means is they suddenly have a voice within the sport. What do you like about it? What have you enjoyed about the game? Would you come back again? If you had the opportunity to play, would you take that opportunity? Can we, sell you a scarf? Would you like a season ticket? Whatever it is, we don't do enough to engage people who are not our own to become part of the sport. So unless you do that, start at that level, and at the same time allow more people in at the executive level who can make decisions, then nothing much will change, and it becomes tokenism, which is a shame. But I think this is a moment where we can all do that, and we should all be sitting down and saying, right, we've been negligent, but we need to get this right.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Jamaica England game, like, all it takes is like you said, some of them young boys and girls won't even know what rugby league was, and it's just letting them know what a great game we have. And if they know, maybe I can represent Jamaica, maybe can represent the future. Like, how good is that? And I think that's why it's a good thing Jamaica are based in Leeds. We can get into them communities, and I think it's just giving young children just a chance to actually play. And it's just, like you said, it's not just about playing rugby. What else? Like, there's so many benefits like that they get from being involved, friendship, like releasing their aggression. And I just think that's where it starts, in schools, and we need to get into them. And I think there will be change from this, especially within the game of rugby league. And I think Jamaica being here will be a big help, especially.
It's a strange one, as you say. There's no balance on this debate. Racism is bad. It's on TV. There's too many times where you'll have two opposite sides of a debate arguing and never finding a solution because they can't find a solution. If we had someone on the programme tonight who's a racist, it'd be utterly pointless, because we're never going to change their mind about what they think and how they feel. Or I imagine we're not going to change their mind about how they think and how they feel. So what do we do as a sport to try and do the right thing? Because we know there are people, as we've seen on social media, if they get upset about wanting to release a shirt, the kind of people who tweet Yorkshire tea and get upset, these kind of people, and I flippantly say people are idiots and whatever, and it's the wrong phrase to use, but how do we as a sport do the right thing going forward so that everyone, regardless of race, gender, whatever, feels comfortable being involved in rugby league.
Ban them.
Yeah, I think just they're not real fans. I don't think people like that. Just get them out of the game.
You don't need them. I mean, the fact is that if you are trying to create the right environment that sends out the right message, and you're absolutely right. This isn't a topic of debate. It's right or wrong, and clearly it's wrong. So, that isn't really an issue. I don't particularly want to hear the view of a racist because I don't think they've got a view. I don't think they should be given the oxygen and publicity for that view. So I think if Warrington, and I'm using purely them as an example and absolutely commending them on being the leaders in putting out the shirt, if they then have some season ticket holders that they can identify that have made statements on their social media, their official social media channel, that are proven to be racist and not only just upsetting, but actually have crossed the line where they could be prosecuted, then
He's frozen at exactly the right time, hasn't he? But he is right, Sophie. We do have to, as you say, just ban people, and so there's no right or wrong. There's only right on this one. That's the basic message, isn't it? I think Phil's completely frozen, but this is it's a perfect time to wrap things up anyway. And I appreciate your time, Sophie. I feel apologetic to get you on to talk about this. I know we talked about rugby as well, but we should get you on more often than before now to talk about other things that aren't racism, because it's a very important thing. But what we need to do is get people on talking about rugby from all aspects of the sport, regardless of colour. Oh, Phil's back now.
Nigel Farage hacked in. My line dropped apparently.
I was just saying, Phil, it's almost apologetic to have Sophie on when we're talking about this issue, rather than just having Sophie on to talk about rugby as a rugby person, what she is. But that's the situation we're in, and hopefully people will listen to this program and I don't know. I think, as you said, Sophie, the main thing is we do talk and have these uncomfortable conversations, and I feel like we have to pussyfoot around it because we don't know. People don't want to say the wrong thing, even accidentally.
Yeah, no, I think this is a good thing. We do have to have the conversations, and it is uncomfortable, not just for me, but I think it is uncomfortable for a lot of people talking about racism. But yeah, all we can do is educate each other, and I think that's one thing I've learned. Like, I'm still educating myself. I've ordered books and stuff because that's all we can do. I need to know about my history, and if other people can do that, I think we're just we're making progress and we're on the right steps, I think.
See, I think, again, coming from the point of view of you don't want to upset anybody, actually, in some ways you do, because you only learn when you've made a mistake. It's the same in sport as it is in life generally. You become a better rugby league player when you've been put under pressure for the very first time and you've taken the wrong option. Somebody can then sit you down, play you the video, point out where you went wrong, or perhaps the other options that were available to you at that time. And when you're in that situation again, you know what the right thing to do is. And every time you come to a point where you need a clarification, we shouldn't be afraid to make a mistake, because how will we learn unless we make a mistake? And I just think that we have to do more. That the first thing that we need to start with is the fact that we can all be better. And we're not absolved from responsibility. And we, in many respects, the people that point the finger are the most privileged, and it's fear that perhaps their position of privilege will be undermined by opening up society. And in a way, that's a metaphor for rugby league. We've always been really happy to be the big fish in the small pool and worried that if the pool gets bigger, our influence gets less. But in reality, it benefits us all if the pool gets bigger. And, the other thing about rugby league is we love a debate. We are a sport that thrives on having different viewpoints, and we'll circle the wagons when anybody attacks us, but when it's left to ourselves, we'll argue in a room. And we do need to get everybody involved in this, and they do need to say things that they need to be pulled up on, because they're not going to learn why it's an offence unless they're told. And there needs to be a punishment for the offence, but you need the opportunity to make to find where the acceptable borderlines are, so that we can make the whole thing better for everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you are a person involved in rugby league who has posted questionable things online in the past, or there are photos of you in blackface, just have a think about your social media and what you're doing and why you're doing these things. I don't know.
Also, have a think about why it would be offensive, because there will be a situation that would be offensive to you, and imagine that the tables are turned.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. People just need to think. People are actually seeing your tweets, and it does cause offence. Maybe not to you, but to someone else reading that. I think that's an important thing. But hopefully people are learning, and that's all we can ask right now.
Well, I'm pretty sure, with judging my social media, some people will be upset by this programme and annoyed by it. And if they are, the kind of people use the phrase snowflakes or social justice warriors, or what's the other one, virtue signalling. Well, there are 100 million podcasts out there. You don't have to listen to this one anymore. That's fine. We'll do without you. I don't know.
If you don't stand for something, you don't stand for anything.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think was that Katy Perry? I think it was.
Was it a lyric? I don't. I'm hardly likely to know Katy Perry, am I?
I've somehow got to end the program on a light note, you see, because it's important. We've had an important conversation. I'm glad we did this program. I'm glad you were able to give us some of your spare time, so because obviously I know you're busy back at work now, and we hope you're back on the field soon, enjoying your running, and hopefully by the time the Women's Super League season gets underway at some point in the season, we'll see you in action again. And good luck to Leeds for the rest of the season. Oh, I've got something in my throat. No, tip Saints, haven't I? So I'm in trouble now, but never mind. Phil, magazine's out this week.
Yes, just come in from the printers, so subscribers should get theirs in the morning and in whatever shops are open on Friday, and all the others when they reopen on Monday.
Final word to you, Sophie. Mention your Instagram for food, and any final thoughts you want to leave us with.
No, I think it's positive we had this chat today, and I hope people watching learn a little bit and they're willing to have a conversation. And I just think if we can carry on, especially in rugby, we can leave it in a better way, and we can just progress the game, hopefully.
And the Instagram's food with Soph. Then that's the main thing. We've got to get your followers up, of course, as well.
Give me a follower. I'm gonna go get fish and chips tonight, so go on there.
Oh, I'm trying to be good now. This is no good, is it? Anyway. I found you, I think.
I think if we end as we begin, the one thing that has been uplifting a little bit has been seeing all this World Cup stuff, because it's not a men's World Cup anymore. It's a men's, a women's and a wheelchair. Now, that's the start, again, of people thinking differently about the sport of rugby league. If we carry that into every other environment, including race and anything, anything else, if we're serious about being the most all-inclusive sport, then let's be adult about this. And if people get upset, tell us why you're upset. And then, listen to the other side of the debate, but don't close yourself off.
In closing, I finally do have something in common with a Super League player, because I'm just looking at this picture now, Sophie, and it says, ordering 2 meals is a problem for me. That is certainly a problem for me, sadly, but there we go. Sophie, thanks for your time. Phil, thanks again. And this was yet another episode of 4020, not live.